Why, hello there, Knifestyle here. I do hope this video finds you well. Today we're doing a summary of a knife that I have done a full review on. The full review will be linked down in the description if you care to see the full length with the specs and the talking and the stuff, right? But this being summary is going to be much shorter. This is the Kunwu Jericho. This is a really good knife, really nicely, well, nice thin cutting edge, good tip access. There's a lot to love here. There are a few little quirks, I think, and we'll talk all over them. But let's just start off by saying that this is DLC, blade, and hardware. The blade and actually the pivot is got this Kunwu's satin DLC that's pretty nice. It's reflective. Of course, it takes fingerprints like DLC, and oil and stuff like that. As you can see, some discoloration there from the oil that was in the pivot. This knife is in Vanex steel, and yes, you can see there's a little dot right there where the application of the DLC, apparently, I don't know if there was like a little fleck of something on top on the blade or something when it got treated. No idea. Never seen that happen before, but it's not really a big deal. Especially on Vanex, it's certainly not going to rust. Vanex has pretty good edge retention. It's a very premium steel. It oftentimes adds quite a bit of price to a model. It's got pretty good, darn good edge retention, reasonable toughness, and basically corrosion proof. The handle on this model is titanium. It is a frame lock on bearings. Pretty straightforward standard stuff. As you can see, this one has the honeydew texture that Kunwu calls it. It is contoured. This one's got they all have this Timascus inlay as well as Timascus pivot collars. I personally am one who likes to see a design element carried through to the lock bar side, but I figured, well, on this one, the pivot collars sort of achieve that. So I gave it a pass where normally I wouldn't do that. If it's got a big design element and stuff like that on one side and nothing to show for it on the other side, aka something like a hinderer where you get G10 with texture and flat titanium on the other side, well, I haven't had too many of those on the channel because I don't typically gravitate towards those knives. But this one I made a little bit of an exception for. It's also a pretty cool looking knife. Titanium backspacer, titanium milled clip. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the clip. I don't hate it. It's tall. It's reasonable carry depth. It's decently in an... How do I put it? They chamfer this down hard, so you really kind of have to go past that point to pull it out of the pocket, which kind of, like, you kind of want to get on an angle so you get a little bit of the honeydew texture and a little bit of the height of the clip to pull it out, because otherwise you're kind of pulling on this angle. It makes it a little tricky to pull it out of the pocket if you don't get a good grip on it. I also find the clip to be a little bit pokey up here. Fortunately, you don't feel the pokiness in the hand. There are a few grips that you might want to adjust for occasionally as far as ergos go, which are pretty neutral, but you can sometimes feel the clip because it is pretty tall. But it works good. It's got pretty strong retention, honestly. It's fine. I'm certainly not going to complain. There's vastly worse clips out there. It is not reversible, however, so lefties... Well, Kunwu oftentimes makes lefty versions, and I know they've done so with the Jericho, so you may still be able to find some. It is good thin geometry. You've got a poon up here, sort of a clip point into the poon. The tip is pretty in line with the pivot, maybe a little bit higher, but the belly's far enough back that you can definitely get to the tip axis pretty darn well, no problems, really. And it's nice, relatively thin behind the edge. Not too thick on the blade stock in general. The blade overall, or not overall, the blade length, yeah. It's just a little over 3 3/8, about 8 inches overall. It's not a huge knife, but not a small knife. Sort of a medium-sized knife. I actually thought it was going to be a little bit bigger. And I think a little bit bigger would actually help this one. And I'll tell you why in just a second, but before that, the opening hole aperture is the only method of actuating this thing, and fortunately it works pretty darn well. Good snappy detent. First off, if you don't get this thing in the right area, you can definitely start clipping yourself with the heel of the blade. Fortunately, if you go up high enough, you can sort of get the blade, the tang, up here in the choil to catch your finger before the edge does. So you can be pretty safe. Just to let you know. It also seems to have, at least this one does, has a little bit of hesitancy to start dropping. Well, it didn't that time, but a lot of times it like just doesn't want to go right away, and then it takes a second to drop. Don't know if that's a thing, but figured I'd mention it. One of the slightly odd things is this, what would you call that? Yeah, I guess you call that the primary scallop. This is your forward finger choil. This is the primary choil for your finger. It's a little bit on the small side if you're going to hold it back here. It's not uncomfortable or anything, but it does feel like it doesn't quite fit my finger all the way. It's, like I said, it's not uncomfortable. It's not a problem. It's just, it does, if you have really big fingers, it might feel a little bit weird because you're going to be kind of on the hump here. Just something to take note of. The forward choil choke-up position, however, is much more roomy, and you can sort of get away with, you're kind of half in and half out anyway on this one, so it shouldn't cause you a problem to choke up on. I will say that the bearings in this thing, not amazing. I've had several Kunwu, and this is probably the least impressive bearings. I don't know why, but I can definitely feel them a bit more. I think this knife actually came a little bit too tight, and that might have caused something. Or the bearings are just weird, and this one I can just feel the bearings run a lot, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. I mean, this is one of the first knives where I was like, I really might consider getting some skiffs to put in this thing, because it's just, It's like, the action's good, don't misunderstand me. Now that it's all dialed in and everything, and it should be about perfectly centered, and yeah, there's no play. But I will say that the bearings, you can feel them a little bit more than I kind of expected to. Especially as this is not like the cheaper Kunwu being in Vanex. I mean, Kunwu's pricing is usually quite good compared to most of their competitors. But even for Kunwu, Vanex does add some price point. It's still probably better than other knives that you'd find in Vanex, but it's not the cheapest of Kunwu out there. The only thing that I really can say that I think could be done better is the scallop on the the bearings might just be a thing. Maybe it was over tightened or something like that. You can't really say that that's a problem. The scallop, both in size and the lock bar, not cutout, but, well, yeah, I guess the lock bar cutout, combined with the chamfer that's been done here, doesn't really give you a lot of access. In fact, it's not a super deep chamfer, so you kind of tight in there. You're not coming straight from the front. You don't have to come, but it's not like the most comfortable thing to interface with. The chamfer is okay, but then because it's not super deep, it's kind of got a little bit of a hard edge right here on the bottom of the chamfer, so you're kind of still coming in with a kind of a squared edge on it, which, it's not bad, but it could be better. And that's kind of the story with this thing. It's good, the design's cool, but there are a few little tweaks that I would like to have seen done, just shaving off a few things, maybe a little bit more of a rounded clip to make it fold into the contours of the knife better. A little bit bigger on the scallop here, and a little bit deeper of a chamfer. Because even if you made this chamfer just deeper, like down to here, and made it more of a severe angle, made it a little bit further in, even without giving the extra room, you could probably get a little bit better of a interface with it. Overall, though, despite my nitpicks, which I have to mention, of course, it is really good. It's really nice. It's well priced for what it is, and I mean, Kunwu does good work. They do. They're also a stickler for heat treats and blade steels and stuff like that, so you can usually be sure that it's probably going to be pretty solid. They also have pretty consistently good edges, like better than average edges, at least in my experience on the knives I've gotten from them. So there's a lot to love here. A few little critiques, but overall the Jericho is definitely recommendable. I don't know what variants are still around, or if there's going to be more, but it's a cool piece. and I'm glad to have gotten it and honestly have it, and I'm going to see if I can't put it through its paces a little bit more, because I don't really have a lot of experience with Vanix, I'll be honest. So, I think we're going to end things here. I will say thank you for watching. Consider liking and subscribing for more, and hopefully there will be more, and hopefully I will bring you more interesting stuff. So, I will see you later. Have a great day. I'm out.